Keeps clips. Break the conditioning now. Who's been naughty? Now.
This is not the InfoWars Nightly News.
And it's not the InfoWars Nightly News.
1984 is not $19.95 plus shipping and handling, but the answer is to try and understand the double barrel bullcrap, the double speak, and the Orwellian wonderland we now find ourselves in. So sit back and relax as I take you through a real alternative look at the news and so-called alternative media alike. Enjoy.
Clips, clips.
Oh, teeny me. Best do that. Alrighty, boob tubes. I thought I would answer a comment with a video. Old school. YouTube OG style. Remember that you could do reply videos and all that jazz? Dames were the days. Anyway, so self-explanatory. What's David Icke ever said that was wrong? This is a question that was asked. And I'm saying to myself, are you for reals? But the guy's for reals, I'm thinking. And I find it very hard to let my... I was going to say my fingers do the talking, but I can do that. I find it very hard to let my typing do the talking. That's more bang on the button. And in that vein, I'm going to let my mouth do the talking. Because do you know the best thing in the world is at doing the talking? It's your mouth. For some strange weird reason, it's the best form of communication you can get. Preferably in the same room with the same person you're trying to talk to. But every variant has its merits. Anyway, in the evening one and all. So, a wee sort of a 10-minute warm-up to what has David Icke ever said that was wrong. Now, I started with obviously shape-shifting. He was Jesus. And remember, propaganda doesn't have to be lies either. It's pointing, it's filling people's heads with bullshit and pointing them in a direction, you know. But that's semantics. But I thought what I would do is go into David Icke's most recent video and have a listen and see if there's maybe a few points that are just bona fide or bull crap, or like just basically do a wee commentary on David Icke shite. The BBC. Now, this is me just picked his last video apart from the one everybody wishing him happy birthday. And he looks about fucking 99. But, so, this was just his last one. Hold on, what's this? Oh, that's his one. Let me see, did I get a wee... Oh, here's these videos here. Right, so as you can see, I just went to his last one. Oh look, you'll be able to see how much these videos I actually watch. See this wee bit down here? You can see how much I last. How long I last in these videos. Oh my god, I watched a full one. I'll be honest, I think I must have left it on play in the background because I can't remember watching all that. The Satanic Elite. Proving me right. Oh, proving you right, mate, aye. Anyway, don't mind, honestly, if you want to believe David Icke battering, but if you find what I'm saying here questioning this lunatic offensive, then you're in his cult. Because, like, by any measure, this guy is a raving lunatic. Again, I started with shape-shifting aliens, and he was Jesus. Let's even go to the shell suit that he wore. But bring it up to date in this narrative that he's spinning with the virus, and he'll say, where is he saying what's he saying that's wrong? So let's have a wee look. So I just went to the last one that he put out 8 hours ago, and it's about the BBC. Now, I'm no more of a fan of the BBC as I am David Icke, CNN, Alex Jones. I'm not in this polarised world where I think David Icke, Alex Jones and the internet tell me the truth, and the BBC and CNN tell me lies. I apply the same rules and skepticism to both of them, both sides of the bullcrap equally. So before we get into that, Jesus, there's Jesus in the chat. Alright, Lazy Jesus, blazing stars. Who cares? Pontiac, Carletta in the afternoon, guys and girls. Andy was in the chat as well. So who cares? Thanks for joining, one and all. So, what I was also going to say as well, if anybody wants to bring up about how great and right David Icke is, there's Zoom and Skype and WhatsApp details down below. So various methods of contact, don't you know? Right, anyway, let's get into David's. And I've not watched any of this, so this will be fun.
Pushing the government line.
Uh-oh. Is this these diamond butt plugs that he's selling?
Which the official story. And it's been...
Oh, just missing it a few seconds. Here we go.
And it's been another week in which the official story of this pandemic has been further eroded and demolished.
God, how long did it take? About 55 seconds, but that's only like 5 seconds into his thingy. He's calling this pandemic demonic. It's almost like now, if you convince people the devil is real, then they'll run towards religion. Now, I see this to be a truism. The amount of people that I've seen, including myself, gravitating towards spirituality, religion. Ultimately, you get down the road where most people go towards like organised religion, and that's politically charged as well, I would argue. But anyway, but there we go. 5 seconds in and he's calling it demonic. So I can't even... Axeman, that's who it was. Axeman who said, show me where David Icke's talking shite. He's talking about Ooga Booga men as if they're real, mate. He's talking about this virus as if it's like a fucking thing out the Bible. Sorry to be pedantic and call bullshit in every fucking part of it here, but let's do it.
Has been further eroded and demolished. You wouldn't know that. Eroded. Pandemic has been further eroded and demolished.
Oh, demolished,
you
sorry.
Wouldn't know that if...
I'm lying. Fake news.
You just get your information from the mainstream media and places like the BBC, which is nothing more than a propaganda arm for the permanent government.
Deep state Illuminati. Even though Boris Johnson's in, even though they got Brexit, it's not enough. Don't stop till you get enough. Like Michael Jackson. Can't stop till you get enough. And Brexit ain't enough. Bobo Johnson ain't right wing enough.
And just worth making that point before I go on. You know, people...
It's disgusting listening to him with headphones on, man. It's like listening to an old man fucking sucking a boiled sweetie.
People say the BBC and other outlets in America and around the world are just pushing the government line.
BBC and CNN. That's predominantly who they target.
Well, yeah, but
yeah.
What government?
Oh, what government? What do you mean?
See, there are times like with Brexit when the government of...
Is he talking about the deep state?
Boris Johnson was wanting...
Don't listen to this with headphones, folks. It's disgusting.
Brexit was wanting to secure Britain's withdrawal from the European Union. But the BBC was pushing the other way with its unbelievable bias and propaganda. And the point to make is that organizations like the BBC, and they're like around the world, are not pushing an agenda for the elected government of the time, although those two things can coincide and appear to be the same, what they're actually doing is pushing the agenda of the permanent government. This is the government that's always there, no matter what political party or political personality is theoretically in power.
Deep state.
So here we have the BBC pushing what appears to be, and what is, the political government line of the Johnson government. But it's really pushing the line of the permanent government, which is controlled by this cult. And at this time, the two coincide. So it appears that the BBC are pushing the elected government line, but what they're actually pushing is the permanent government line. And this is the government that is a pyramid of secret societies controlling the financial system, controlling the political system, controlling the media, controlling the major corporations.
Cheers.
Controlling government administration, and they're all there, no matter what parties.
Right, let's not forget their man Donald Trump owns big, massive corporations and all that, right? This is corporate war, geopolitics, national politics, getting dressed up as good versus evil by charlatans like David Icke.
In power. So this is what they're doing. They're pushing the permanent government agenda. And so when the BBC
are pushing the permanent government, but they're against Donald Trump, who's the president of the free world and the most powerful man in the world. Right? I mean, they see when Donald Trump got in, and they still were trying to sell themselves as the downtrodden, as the rebels, as the underdogs, because everybody loves an underdog. It's like no human being likes to see others get unfairly downtrodden and stuff. So that's the technique they use to sell their shite to you. And if you listen to David Icke
and people like that say, people accuse us of being biased to the right and biased to the left, so we must be doing something right. Well, actually, that's not the case.
Actually, no. You're not far right enough.
You're not biased to the right or biased to the left. You're biased to the permanent government agenda, which is run by the cult, which is why you'll get the BBC constantly pushing and censoring any other view on human-caused climate change, because that's the permanent government agenda. And here, with this pandemic, you have them in line with the Johnson government and suppressing all other information, because the Johnson government is following the permanent government agenda. This is how it works. That's the common theme, the permanent government. So anyway,
deep state.
What the BBC and their like are doing around the world.
It's crazy, because I could have swore like Boris Johnson got Brexit through, and most people were happy with Boris Johnson. But now that Boris Johnson's got elected, kept the Conservatives in, pushed through Brexit, he's not right-wing enough.
Is preventing information coming out that would show people what's really going on, which is why the alternative media has been so important.
The alternative media. Right, so it's important that the alternative media have been pushing far-right agenda. Right, I think if you're objective and you look at the alternative media might not tell you what to think, but if you watch even the largest spectrum of the all so-called alternative media, they'll all tell you what to think about. It is no coincidence. What was the example I used to use? I remember there was one point when the alt-right or the alternative media used to use a montage of the mainstream media, all different channels, but they were talking about the same story, using the same words, the same memes, the same references, and they don't understand. You go around the majority of the so-called alternative media like David Icke, they're all doing the same thing. The virus is a hoax, fight on our free vaccinations, abortion. And then when you trace all the talking points and agendas that they go on about, it comes from the fundamental Christian Bible school, Sunday school. Anyway, let's get back on to David Icke telling us the truth. The BBC pushed the deep state Illuminati's agenda. Like, I would say the most fairest assessment of what the BBC is. Well, look at it when it was set up. It was part of the not the government, but the intelligence services information propaganda wing. I still think it's very much that. So it's not government Pacific. It's more the intelligence agencies. It's more pushing what the intelligence agencies want and stuff. To say it, well, I don't know. It's the reason I believe it's been getting attacked by these elements is because the BBC it was pretty much pro EU, wasn't it? And that's why elements attack it, not because they're more unbiased than anybody else. Every news organisation out there has its editorial stance, every single one. Idiots like David Icke and all his gremlins even more than other people. The BBC has its own editorial stance. That editorial stance comes from the intelligence agencies that set it up. CNN, same goes. 3 brain cells, and this isn't a surprise, and you understand the filter that the news that you're getting comes through. But David Icke and stuff will rise on people's ignorances just to paint them as demonic and evil. And
DavidIcke.com has played a major role in this over the last few weeks since this started. Anyway, on DavidIcke.com, if you've not seen it, was a video this week made by an American doctor, a respiratory specialist, and it's
right. Okay, 5 minutes, 10 seconds in, he's calling this guy a doctor. Now, this is important. This is very important. Listen to this again. Now, this is the... Hold on. Let me see if I can remember where this was. Corona Clowns, it would have been in. Here we go. This one here. Now, as you can see, it's been removed for violating the guidelines. Now, conspiracy people... Some people would say that's the deep state Illuminati, YouTube working with the deep state Illuminati taking away the truth, right? I would say it's them removing fucking bullshit by idiots from YouTube that's going to do the public harm. Now, if you look at the title of this, let me just do this. Respiratory doctor, right? He wasn't a doctor. Let me see if I can find this, actually. Let's see, because this will be getting re-uploaded because everybody thinks it's getting taken down by the deep state Illuminati rather than because it's a danger to idiots' healths. But hey ho, maybe this is going to be the call. Here we go, BitChute. Got to rely on BitChute for this crap. Right, now listen closely and look at the fake news. This guy is not a doctor. I know he looks like Shredder, right? But looking like Shredder doesn't mean you're a doctor. Somebody calling you a doctor on YouTube doesn't mean you're a doctor. Fake news. Standing next to fucking ventilators and CP babri biba biba balupas and variations of that I don't know. Machines. Ventilating machines. Both invasive and I don't know. I think one gives you a blowjob, man, doesn't he? I'm not sure. Right. Well, listen, I'm not going to play this guy in its entirety. I just want to play the start. This guy doesn't even claim to be a doctor. And do you know how many idiots out there? Because BitChute's calling him a doctor, and fucking idiots on YouTube have made the title called doctor, and they rock up and go, this guy looks like he's a doctor. And look, he's got a mask on, and he's standing in front of medical machines. He must be a doctor. Now listen closely to what this guy is.
Good evening, YouTube. This is our future, and the power's with the people.
This is our future, and the power's to the people. Hey, Billy Bob, you got the guns, and I got the bullets. I got the beans, and you got the boobies. Let's go and do it, man. Woohoo, Billy Bob. Right? No offence, this guy's a technician that works in a hospital that's tuned to the fucking moon non-conspiracy shite, right? You can decipher that by the way he introduces himself as some weird fucking YouTube fucking locked and loaded name, okay?
Just want to let you know I am a respiratory therapist. Been
I want to let you know
doing this for 21 years.
He's a respiratory therapist. I've been doing it for 21 years. Now, respiratory therapist isn't the same as a fucking doctor. Respiratory doctor isn't the same. Being a doctor isn't the same as a therapist. I'm sure people who stick pipes up people's arses and fill it with water are called therapists, right? Doesn't mean they understand. Doesn't mean they understand viruses, right? And this is why this is getting took out, taken down. Hold on, there's just a Wikipedia page. Right, let's have a wee read. A respiratory therapist is someone who specialises in healthcare, as a specialised healthcare practitioner trained in critical care and pulmonary medicine in order to work therapeutically with people suffering from acute critical conditions, cardiac and pulmonary disease. Respiratory therapist graduates from college or university with a degree in respiratory therapy and have passed a national board certifying exam. Right? So these people know about lungs and shit. Nothing about fucking viruses. Go and do your own due diligence here, right? I'm going to stab in the dark and throw some things out here. I would think they don't have to study as long or as hard as a doctor's. I don't even think they know as much about viruses as nurses. So basically what this guy does, if this video is actually real, right? If this dude's for real, sounds, I mean, like, imagine, like, saying you're a respiratory therapist after introducing yourself as, hey, don't tread on me, I've got an AR-15 for you, motherfucker.
Good evening, YouTube. This is our future, and the power's with the people.
This is our future, and the power's with the people. Right, I don't know, do you think you can get a slant on this guy's political... do you think this guy might like Trump? And I'm not holding that, I'm not castising the guy for this, but I'm saying, do you think he might be a Trump supporter? And if so, do you think he might be understand what he's digesting or the shite he's digesting online? And then he's not a doctor, he doesn't understand viruses, not in the sort, he probably knows about the same amount of about viruses as us. When it comes to a machine that can keep your lungs fucking breathing, aye, this guy, genius. But when it comes to viruses, it can kill you. And do you know what? When you actually hear the whole clip, if you go and watch the whole clip, and I don't want to keep these from us. Truth. Just do not suspend disbelief. Look, that's like a con. Calling him a doctor when he's not a doctor. Absolute con. So there you go, mate. It didn't take long for David Icke, what was that, 550 or something, to be parroting fake news.
Unused. And first of all, technology does the video. There even is a virus, and he's right to say that he goes as far as to say that everything I said,
sorry, I need to get this,
and it is absolutely explosive. He is confirming virtually everything I said.
So a doctor that isn't a doctor is confirming everything that David Icke is saying, who isn't a doctor, about a fucking virus. So who do you, I don't know about yous, who do you ask for medical advice? Doctors? Scientists? Nurses? Or goalkeepers? Respiratory therapists? And fucking Wookiees and Fruit Loops on fucking YouTube? Right? So this is my video response to Axeman, who asks me, what is it? What's wrong with it? What's David Icke saying that's wrong? There, he's parroting pish about a doctor that doesn't exist, about a guy that isn't a doctor. Oh, that's just semantics. He works in the hospital. So does a fucking cleaner. So does some cunt who fucking changes the vending machine. I'm not going to go and ask the guy who works in a hospital who fucking changes the vending machine about fucking viruses because he's closer to ground zero than I am. And listen to some Fruit Loop fucking engineer that introduces himself as, hey, I take a dildo, power to the people, deeper dabba, power to the people, you know what I mean? It's like fucking listening to me for fucking medical advice. No. Don't listen to cunts with fucking names that don't sound like it's on their birth certificate, fuck's sake, with medical advice. Deeper dabba da, power to the people. Anyway, let's see what other pish David Icke's spewing.
In that London Real interview that was banned, and what I've said in public videocasts, that he goes as far as to say he doubts there even is a virus, and he's right to doubt that. But what he's saying is just...
Oh my god, there's David Icke on his own channel saying that this mad Fruit Loop doctor who isn't a doctor is right to question if there's a virus. Fucking idiots. Fucking idiots. And do you know how many banned sheep will lap this shit up? Look at this, I bet she's got all sorts... No, not all sorts actually, but... They live... Fuck aye, fucking demons live in your nut, planted by Alex Jones. Let's get this fake doctor that now, see, to the untrained ear, they'll be listening to this and go, no, David Icke was talking about a real doctor, a real doctor that said he was there in front of the machines, and obviously because there's machines behind him. Have you not heard the BBC? Have you not heard the mainstream media? They're talking about how the hospitals they built weren't needed because they didn't know how many people were going to get sick, and thank fuck there was people obeyed the social distancing and it wasn't as bad as it could have possibly been. But I would rather have extra ventilators than not enough ventilators if indeed the fucking thing exploded that high. Right? I don't know about you, it makes sense to me. What looks worse on a government? Having too many ventilators? Having hospitals that you don't have to use during a pandemic? Or going, fuck it. Just leave it. No worse than the flu. We just let cunts die. Do you know what I mean? And then everybody's like, oh, what's the conspiracy? They're getting people to fucking build ventilators. Woo! Conspiracy is the government doesn't want kicked out for looking like assholes. That's my opinion.
Some amazing things. For instance, he does the video with some breathing apparatus technology all around him. Unused.
One room.
And first of all, he says there is not a ventilator shortage. That's all propaganda. And these machines behind him are breathing machines. So when people are struggling to breathe, you put a mask on them.
So here's David Icke, who isn't a doctor, rhyming and repeating shit from someone who isn't a doctor, but David Icke claims him to be a doctor because David Icke can't do his due diligence and listen to the words out the own man's mouth, where at no point does he claim to be a doctor. Now that's very significant because do you know what? Doctors are trained in giving you medical advice. This guy's trained in how to play Pac-Man on a machine that keeps you alive. I know who I'm going to listen to. Not a goalkeeper and not a Pac-Man player.
See it all the time, and they get a supply of oxygen. Now, what this doctor is saying is that since this fake COVID-19 hysteria began, they've been banned from using this simple method of giving patients oxygen.
Right, now go and listen to the guy. David Icke will not tell you this. He is fake news. Number one, he's not news because he's not a journalist. Number two, he's a fucking goalkeeper, not a journalist. Number three, he's parroting shit from somebody who also isn't a doctor while telling you he's a doctor. And the guy never claims to be a doctor, so he's not doing his own due diligence. He's either completely stupid and irresponsible and retarded, or he's doing this deliberately, because this fits. I was right all along, the Illuminati, right?
In his words, what he says is, we can't use these machines. We have to, in his words, let the patient crash and then put them directly on a ventilator.
Now, please go and listen to this. If you think I'm lying, I've listened to this. I've listened to this lunatic shredder, fucking hillbilly, fucking redneck idiot that managed to learn how to play Pac-Man on a ventilator machine, and he tells you why. A very reasonable. It's like there's no Spock in the room, because you've got religious fundamentalists trying to fill your head with Satan shit. There's no logic or reason. This man in front of you tells, in fact, I'm going to give you this link, and you can go and listen to this yourselves. Preferably not now, because fucking listen to me, because I'm so great. And you'll hear what I'm about to tell you is spot on. Even this guy who wears Shredder, even Shredder isn't stupid enough to sort of blabble the shit David Icke's saying. They have told him, and this, remember, this is people who have who understand viruses and how viruses spread. This guy here doesn't believe the virus is real. But there's people who do understand viruses, who know the virus is real and see these pictures aren't artistic impressions. Fucking Fruit Loops. And the machines they're talking about are the ones that... This is layman's terms, and I'm an idiot. They're like what would you call it? A scuba mask over the front, and you kind of pump oxygen in there, and it kind of helps you breathe. Now, this is what this man in front of me, who knows more about this than me, says. They told us we can't use that because if the patient's infected, it then creates a big slipstream of virus aerosol, which makes perfect sense, because if you're pumping in oxygen at pressure into a mask where the virus is, there's got to be an outlet somewhere, and that outlet's spewing virus aerosol into the room, which is putting his colleagues at risk, at heightened risk. But this baldy fucking idiot, because he doesn't think the virus is real, thinks that's a conspiracy, which then leads to David Icke then rhyming and repeating shit as if it's from a doctor when it's not from a doctor, when he leaves out the part when even the fucking baldy idiot who isn't a doctor admits, and it makes perfect sense to me, why they're not allowed to use the APG over the RPG or something. I can forget the variants, right? But one's invasive and one's non-invasive, right? And it's the non-invasive one they're not allowed to use. Because, as I mentioned, it's a mask over the face and it's pressurised with an outlet. If there's virus in there, there's then like a constant stream of virus, aerosol, oxygen, or excess fucking air and whatnot spewing out of there, putting the room, everybody in the room at excess risk, including the people that are sick, including his colleagues. Oh my lord. Oof, why am I shouting, man? Look at the fucking idiocracy that David... I don't believe David Icke that stupid. I don't believe he's that stupid. How can... I can't read, I can't write, but I can fucking decipher this shite. Hold on, let me see if I can find this bit.
Just want to let you know, I am a respiratory therapist. Been doing this for 21 years.
That's refreshing. You're a respiratory therapist, not a doctor. At least you're telling the truth. This guy actually tells the truth.
I've been kind of all over the place doing this. I wanted to show you our equipment room here. So we want to talk about COVID-19.
Right, so I don't know, 1, 2, 3, say there's 6, 7, maybe 8 machines there, right? I'd imagine how many, well, is it hundreds or thousands each hospital would have?
And first thing I want to say is does it look like there's a ventilator?
Right, that's 6, I can see, definitely 6, because they're the ventilators on the right, and on the left are the ones they're not allowed to use. So there's only 6 excess ventilators. So if more than, how many, there's there not hundreds of people dying a day? And that guy's like showing you 6 ventilators going, look, we've got tons.
Shortage.
Show me 600 and I believe you. Maybe there's 7 actually, maybe that one in the background. So there's 6 or 7 ventilators there.
There's not. Okay, as a matter of fact, we're running less ventilators right now than we would normally run. And that's because people are just staying home. They're not having elective surgeries.
Okay, so the reason they're running, he actually answers his own question here, but conspiracy people will only hear the conspiracy. The reason they're running less ventilators is because nobody's coming in for non-essential surgeries. Answering his own question. Well, it's not his own question, but he's answering the conspiracy people's questions.
I want to talk about the numbers and the criteria that goes into what a COVID patient is, or a patient under investigation, what's also called a PUI.
Right, I'm no censoring this.
Basically, right now, and the way it has been, lung cancer and pancreatitis and heart disease, and first that would go, those tests went to the CDC for lung cancer or these things. This is clear that this is what's come out, and these tests have taken. You're going to see the numbers either go up, investigation, and dies, then I really don't believe it. All of this stuff is fake. Okay? Look at our ventilators. And let's talk about ventilators and why there would be a shortage of ventilators. Well, this is non-invasive.
Right, there isn't a shortage. Does it look like there's a shortage? And he's going to show you the conspiracy why there would be a shortage. Honest to God, these people are so far gone. They don't understand. They're actually looking at things and it's just fitting into the pre-programmed fucking Armageddon outlook that they've got in their head.
Ventilation here, CPAP or BiPAP. This is
CPAP and BiPAP.
It's a mask that gets strapped on you, and we can help you breathe with that. We're not allowed to use those.
Oh, it's a conspiracy. Why are you not allowed to use them?
Okay. We're finally opening up to where we can use them a little bit, but for the most part, since COVID came out, they said absolutely not. That's going to cause the virus to spread all over the place by spraying aerosols everywhere, and so we can't use it. You have.
So, but that's a conspiracy. You can't use these ones because it sprays aerosols everywhere, which my dumb ass can understand, even just the simplistic terms. It's a mask over the face, pressurised. There's got to be an in and outlet valve unless you want to fucking the mask to fucking go flying like a balloon oil the gaff. Right, so sorry man, and people think this getting removed from YouTube is some sort of, no, it's when people present this as a doctor, because that's fake fucking news. And then I don't know how this thing's still up, to be quite frank.
Very invasive and can be very destructive. And of course, if you're an old person, you almost certainly don't even get on the ventilator. Certainly in Britain, when you look at the do not resuscitate pressure to sign, for old people to sign do not resuscitate agreements so they can be allowed to die and then be tagged COVID-19, which is something else that this doctor says, that no matter what people are dying of, late stage lung cancer, heart disease, doesn't matter, he says. We have to put COVID-19 on the death certificate.
Now, again, who would you believe? Who would you go to get a fair idea of what's really going on here? Now, for me, where I've heard the most valuable stuff is from care homes. And the men and women that work in care homes. And I heard another day, another thing I heard the other day, it was a quick care home through in Renfrew, actually, not too far from myself. And they were talking about how, I can't remember the exact numbers, but basically, usually there's one a month, and there was 5 in 1 week or something like that. You know, it was the jump in the numbers was astronomical, and very noticeable. So, putting my Deep State Illuminati Defender shields up. Aye, there's links below. You can either phone Zoom or Skype. If you want to come and tell me how great Icke is, I don't mind. I don't mind. Why would I mind people? I just think he's full of shite. I don't mind people think he's the like Jesus. It doesn't offend me. But the fact that I think he's full of shite and a big charlatan gets people's wings fucking, which leads me to believe you're putting the pussy on the pedestal. You're putting them in a cult. Anyway, but aye, there's links below. There's even a WhatsApp number down there as well you can use.
And this is where the numbers are coming from. When they say, so many have died from coronavirus and all that stuff, it deserves to be utterly ignored because it simply isn't true.
Listen to a goalkeeper, folks.
By redirecting diagnosis. I mean, when you've got a situation like in Scotland and indeed Northern Ireland, and it will be the same in many other countries, where the instruction is now to doctors and medical staff that if someone tests positive for COVID-19, and they won't test positive for COVID-19, as I've said many times, because they're not testing for COVID-19, which is what this respiratory doctor said. We're not testing for COVID-19.
Right, again, fake news. This respiratory doctor isn't a doctor. So this is absolutely just fake. Right, he might as well have asked a car mechanic. Right, be honest, and I'm genuine. He might as well be speaking to a car mechanic. This guy knows as much about viruses as a car mechanic knows. And if you go and listen to his whole fucking bunch of drivel, which I encourage you to do, I'm no deep. Look, look, see this banned video that's not allowed on YouTube. I've just streamed it live on YouTube, and I'm not scared of getting shut down or anything, because I'm not streaming it trying to pass it off as a doctor giving you medical advice. Oh fuck, look, my Peaky Blinders razor blade. Anyway, let's get back to Icke.
We're testing for a genetic material. It's what I've been saying all along.
Yes, and I understood for weeks. That's what I said. I'm the best. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to the doctors. Everything the doctor says in the Institute for National Statistics or something, just forget about them, ignore them. Listen to a conspiracy guy goalkeeper who believes in shape-shifting reptiles, and what else does he believe in? I'm thinking of good vibrations. I can't, honestly, like 8 minutes, it takes me about fucking 4 hours to get through this guy's pish. It's like nails down a blackboard listening to this guy.
Because this genetic material can be found in vast numbers of people who are not sick at all, vast numbers of people keep testing positive without any symptoms of what they say this COVID-19 is.
It's like chlamydia.
And so this is where the numbers are coming from.
Yes, don't believe those numbers, believe fake. David Icke.
And the death and case numbers worldwide that are being quoted,
those numbers are fake, says the man who's telling you all this information from a non-existent doctor. Right? So there's like a million percent boom-proof fucking evidence David Icke is fake news. So, Axeman, let me see if I can share the wealth. Oh man. Right, I need to do this. Oh, let's see. Right, let's see. Oh, no. Do this. There we go. Right, it was Axeman, right? And look, I'm not doing this to have a go, right? It's like, I mean, mate, I bet you you're fucking lovely human being. I'm not even saying that to be sarcastic. And don't mind my hairs and graces. But my airs and graces. So care to point out precisely why Icke is wrong and about what specifically. Just calling him a Looney Tune is not a reasoned argument. I'm not here to make reasoned argument or debate or anything. I'm not. I don't even want to make people's minds up for them. I want to share my lunacy. And I really am here to like fucking show you back, like try and prove science to you, or how somebody's lying, or science about viruses using websites. Right, it's up to you to make do your own due diligence and use your own brain and your own reason and logic to decipher your way yourself through this. Because Axeman, no doubt you sit there and think you're a free thinker and think for yourself and all that, and you're listening to a goalkeeper who's lying about a non-existent doctor who might as well be a car mechanic, a Trump supporting car mechanic. No offence, this guy probably, like, he knows how to work respirators and all that, but he probably thinks the Earth was built in 7 days. I don't. In fact, I know that not to be true. It's called science.
Quoted are coming from an organisation called Johns Hopkins University, which is the same crowd very close to Bill Gates.
Oh yes, so now who would you believe? That university or David Icke quoting a non-existent doctor? I know who I'd believe. The guy that thinks he's Jesus and the lizard shape-shifting guy. Why not? That makes perfect reason. Reasonable.
That, took part in that Event 201 simulation.
Simulation?
With the Gates organisation.
Oh yes, they actually done a run for a pandemic. That means they started the pandemic. Use non-existent logic, why don't you? Let's even roll out Arkham's razor shit. Sorry, Axeman.
And the World Economic Forum, another Gates-connected organisation, the 1%.
Alan, stop lying.
Simulation of a corona.
You're deep state Illuminati. Alan, are you disputing this bona fide car mechanic doctor? You trying to say that your kin hid this shit? That's out of order, Alan. Out of order. Alan's in on the scam, folks. He's deep state Illuminati confirmed. He's propagating the myth that this virus is... See all those doctors and nurses and that's 1.5 million people that work in the NHS? They're all in on it, folks. David Icke told us. He's quoting a doctor that doesn't exist.
Coronavirus pandemic 6 weeks before it started to kick off. So Johns Hopkins University are all in on this stuff. And they're controlling the figures worldwide.
They're all in on it.
And even then,
all in it.
They can't make the
now,
figures.
You can't really take him in a court of law, but what he's basically doing there is insinuating that Bill Gates and this John Hopkins thing have released this virus in the world for their own fucking rhymes and reasons. Now, if that was true, they wouldn't have any evidence. So what they've got is just, what they're doing is they're getting a bunch of baying sheep to do this shit for political reasons. As I said, I like Microsoft shit. Apart from Microsoft phones, they sucked. But Windows 10, you can still get fucking cracks and all that for it. I've never paid Bill Gates a penny for his products, but I love them. So thanks, Bill. But I don't know. I've never met him. And I'm certainly not going to let Alex Jones and David Icke giving me background history or insinuating their devils and demons sway my judgment on anybody. Never mind the guy that invented Microsoft. But now I can see people screaming at their screen and all that, pure annoyed. Ah! You're Bill Gates' shell. I don't know, man. I'm not telling you like Bill Gates. Don't like him all you want. But if you're getting in an absolute fucking manic fucking hate-filled fest for that guy, then you're a puppet of Alex Jones. Anyway, let's see if I can remember to unmute my microphone when I come back.
Explode. Now, there are ways that they could mine, which I talked about in the London Reel. banned interview, but at the moment they're not. And what we're seeing now, I was watching an edition of the Tucker Carlson show on Fox News in America this morning, before I started this recording.
Sorry, I did remember, but I just had to point out 2 bits of David Icke bullshit, right? So number one, he's using a non-existent doctor, and then he's referring to the London Real Band video. It's so funny, they'll actually call something band. Oh shit. Right, so here's numerous links I can get to. In fact, let's even see if Google will give it to you. I bet you London, I bet you even Icke, I bet you even fucking what do you call it? Google gives it to you. Right, so what's this?
All right, good morning from London. It is a beautiful sunny day.
Right, you're just looking for BitChute, aren't you? Now let's go to videos. So, this is how hard it is to get to David Icke's banned video. 3 clicks banned. See, if he was honest and a truth teller, what he would say is the video that YouTube kicked off. It's not banned. Nobody's banned it. YouTube has made the decision he doesn't want idiots that's spreading fucking idiocracy. Or trying to give medical advice to millions of people who listen to him for some weird reason about a virus that's killing thousands of people. I can understand that. Hey, I'm Deep State Illuminati.
You know,
so there's two.
Idea, but we have not made anything.
No, there's 2 bits of
I've not
shit.
really bothered with the Carlson show for some weeks, and he was coming out, and he said to me, "You're right about what's happening." He said the hospitals have never been so quiet, and that there are hundreds of empty beds in hospitals in Britain with staff just sitting around. And this has become absolutely clear with the number of videos posted on YouTube of
more fake and twisted and slanted and spin news. You listen to the BBC, you listen to the mainstream media radio. They're actually advertising and going, make sure you're coming in if you're feeling not well, because nobody's going in because they're scared of getting a virus. But this kind of adds into the conspiracy that there's no virus. They can't understand how lockdown would result in quieter hospitals, especially in the departments you can still walk into, and not locked down corona fucking virus wards where they're locked down to try and stop the spread of a pandemic. Right, so there's 3 bits of bullshit for David Icke.
Of nurses and medical staff doing dance routines through empty hospital wards. I've heard this morning that there is a...
He watched a YouTube video. Now remember, this is the guy who watched this and can't decipher he's not a doctor. You can't rely on David Icke telling you, reciting anything. He can't even be honest about a YouTube clip that you can go and watch on BitChute.
A Guardian article, the Guardian, I won't call it a newspaper because I'd be lying, about...
Don't call him a journalist because you would be lying.
In Britain, they've, as they have around the
So
world, but in
full
Britain
of
they
shit.
have
It makes my
created
blood
these,
boil. This fucking
emergency temporary hospitals called Nightingale, after Florence Nightingale, famous nurse, of course.
Oh yeah, so sure how great you
I think
are.
she was involved in the Crimean War, I recall. Anyway, and there's like thousands of beds for intensive care. And when they opened this, I made the point, well, who's it going to be for? Because you haven't got the numbers to justify it, and your hospitals are basically half empty, or even more than half empty as it is. So of course they haven't got the numbers. The last I saw, there's about 4 people there. But what they're saying, because it's the scale of lies has shocked even me, having researched these people all these years. But and the scale of the lies just does actually confirm some desperation. But
the scale of the lies sounds like an old man eating a boiled sweet. It's disgusting on the ears. Anyway, and his son's a sound technician, a band guy. Anyway, I digress. How long's that took to get all sorts of forms of shite? So he's talking about a non-existent doctor, and then talking about empty hospitals. Right, so let's keep score. No doc.
They're saying that they can't fully open, or even open at all in reality, this
Empty
Nightingale
hospitals.
emergency intensive care, quote, hospital in a conference centre, because of a shortage of nurses. These are the nurses prancing around making dancing videos in empty hospitals with nothing to do. It's extraordinary, the scale of lies. But you see, this has to be.
Don't ask doctors and nurses. Listen to David Icke, who can't tell the difference between a doctor and a respiratory therapist. Fake news. Then he's also trying to use this the hospitals are empty bullshit. Watch the BBC. Watch the mainstream media. They'll tell you the hospitals are empty.
Kept from people because
for obvious reasons. They're encouraging you to go if you're not well.
Scams that's going on, and there are many, is this focus on praise and almost worship of health workers. Now, there are many health workers who are genuine people and dedicated people, and they need to be acknowledged, absolutely right. But there's lots of health workers that are very indifferent as well. And there's others that are psychopaths. I mean, some of the most unpleasant people I've ever met, when I go back to, when my father died in a geriatric hospital, some of the most unpleasant people I've ever met have been in the medical profession. That's not to say there are not large numbers of very dedicated, decent, genuine people. However, this worship of them is nothing to do with them. It's part of this psychology that the hospitals are war zones. Organizations like the BBC and CNN and MSNBC and all the rest.
Man, do you think it's a coincidence that all their focus from the far right is on BBC and CNN, who arguably are on the far left? Right? Or they certainly are pro elements that the far right want to destroy. Like the far right being the nationalistic element, and the BBC and CNN not being nationalists. Now, no propagandist will tell you that reality because they're trying to tell you that they're sitting there telling you the truth, like David Icke. But they're pushing one side or the other, not calling them both out. And if you stand back and look at Icke and all these gremlins and the way their tractor beam has took, the direction that the tractor beam has took a lot of people, you would think that they have been using professional marketing techniques, some would say.
Now, they're a hardline far-right group provoking...
Working for the militant pro-life movement in the States, then set up the BNP's fundraising call centre in Belfast.
You've got to remember, most political parties don't know their arse to their elbow. You bring in a professional marketing team. You know, I trained in America with the pro-lifers and all that. If you apply professional marketing techniques and fundraising to a political situation, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
Is David Icke nothing more than professional marketing techniques applied to a political situation? That is my genuine argument about this guy. Where the fuck is he? Now, maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there, but don't worry, David Icke will appreciate it, because it's all about always asking questions, question everything, apart from the little fucking truther industrial complex cabal, because if you question that, they'll either shun you, make you look crazy, or just not talk about you. Anyway, let's listen to a wee bit more Jim. So taking professional marketing techniques and applying it to a political situation, it's a gift. It's a gift, David.
And that's what we did with the BNP. Raised them £4 million, and then left them to it. So I was never in the BNP, but we did do work for them, just to make them successful enough to push everybody over to the right. And I think...
Now, you might think it sounds bizarre that at some point maybe David Icke touched base with the British National Party, right? I don't think it sounds that bizarre. At one point through his career, if you go and look at his career after he retired, because he was Kaiser Soze from football, he dabbed in, it was like, oh God. He was a journalist and all that, and then he ended up in politics in the way of the Green Party. Now, if for whatever reason he was trying to etch out a career in politics, now I would argue most people who try and etch out a career in politics do it for other reasons rather than they like the politics. You know, so when he was looking at the field, did he actually look at the far right as well as the Green Party? Because he ended up becoming part of the Green Party. And then when you see him dissolving from the Green Party, no longer doing the Green Party, next thing you know, he's on national TV doing a big, massive media stunt with Terry Wogan, who came out of a Jesuit school, by the way, but with Terry Wogan and others. You know, now I think about it, the two first interviews he got were Irish people. Now I think about it. Terry Wogan and the other guy whose name escapes me, claiming to be Jesus. And that was the start of David Icke and his current reincarnation as whatever fucking people think he is. He certainly isn't a journalist. Is he part of just professional marketing techniques applied to a political situation?
That has resulted now in the success that UKIP is enjoying. And far better UKIP enjoying it than the BNP, to be honest with you. But at least everybody's over to the right, a couple of notches.
Now he's bankrolling Britain first. How much would you say you've ploughed into that?
That would be difficult to count. I'd need to go and calculate that up. But a substantial amount. One thing I agree with Mr. Chowdhury on, there is such a concept as a just war, a holy war.
Right, and then there's him funding Britain first. That's Paul Golden. And Paul Golden and Tommy Robinson at the same time joining Telegraph and the Russian Facebook, which it came to my attention as both invented by the same people. So... our far right are using tools by the Russian state. You know, our Facebook, it's spying on you. Deep state Illuminati. Russian Facebook, oh, it's great. Thank you, Mr. Putin. Fucking hell, it shows you the makeup of these people.
He calls it jihad, we call it crusade.
Is that how you see it? You see yourself
Absolutely.
involved in a holy war?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Without any shadow of a doubt.
Like
this is a
your
holy war.
rhetoric is identical to theirs in that respect, isn't it?
It maybe is, but we are right, they're wrong.
Do you think Jesus would do what you're doing?
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't his modus operandi in the New Testament, was it? We have no record of him driving around Jerusalem in a decommissioned military.
No, but he also said, I come not to bring peace but a sword.
Jim Dowson and Britain First are employing sophisticated social media techniques in this crusade. But first, puppies.
Right. So don't sit there and be as naive to think that David Icke is just a guy that felt vibrations and writes books. He's influenced a lot of people in one particular direction, and a lot of those people have turned up at the door of UKIP. And if you ignore that, fair dues. Then you have Jim Dowson talking about how him ploughing in money to the BMT was great because it moved everybody over to the right, which then enjoyed UKIP to enjoy the success they're having. Go and scratch the circus at the top of UKIP. Christian fundamentalists like Jim Dowson who believe they're fighting a crusade against the jihad. Isn't that hard to see where these folks are coming from by looking at the direction they're pulling people in?
The rest of them, they could find out very easily, as members of the public have, that the hospitals are not war zones at all. They've never been so quiet, in the words of this hospital worker that I met, who does work in intensive care. And
this hospital worker who works in intensive care that he's met, you can't rely on him because he can't even listen to the words out of the same guy that he's calling a doctor's mouth. So this guy ain't good at Chinese whispers, and he thinks he's a truth teller. Hasn't even got the self-awareness to go like that here. Do you know what? Every time you sort of retell a story, you lose a wee bit of the accuracy of it. Nah, he knows everything.
So every week they have mass clapping for the National Health Service workers who are sitting around strumming their fingers, thinking about a theme for the next video. And we've had this week a...
It's very dangerous being derogatory towards the people in the NHS, man. And who's he asking? Is he asking anybody in the corona wards? Or is he asking people who aren't doctors and then calling them doctors?
One world, note the language, one world government, one world centralization is what that's about. One world together at home, global special, to support healthcare workers in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And what this was, to again globally focus on health workers, and they're doing fantastic, amazing things. I'm not saying some of them aren't, but I mean, clearly that they are in many and various guises. But the great majority aren't, not now, because the hospitals have never been so quiet. Why? Because...
Are you fucking for real? I mean, this guy is either genuinely retarded or he can't figure that out. I'm not going to explain it to you. If you are that stupid, please remember to breathe. And remember, this guy ain't a doctor.
They have, to save the hospitals from being overrun, they have cancelled operations, they've cancelled consultations, they've cancelled other diagnoses.
Okay, so what part of this confuses you?
Which is going to, and I'm going to...
What's confusing you here, Ike? Tell us.
Which is killing increasingly large numbers of people from other things. But because...
So 1 minute they're making up the deaths, trying to heighten the deaths, and now they're killing off people. Oh, what the fuck? This guy's heat is all over the gaff.
Because of the death certificate scam, when they die of those other things and have either tested positive for COVID-19, not COVID-19 at all, the genetic material, which so many people...
And remember, get your medical advice and scientific information about tests and reliability of tests and how they test from people who believe in shapeshifting lizards and who played football for a living. Not even football, actually. They were the goalkeeper. They're always the biggest Looney Tunes. That's a known fact. The biggest Looney Tunes you get in a football team are goalkeepers, and David Icke is up to that stereotype.
People have anyway. Or, in the view of a doctor, they have COVID-19 symptoms. COVID-19 goes on the death certificate when they die of other things. And this is happening on an absolutely vast scale. So we had these clueless, mindless celebrities like Lady Gaga and Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger, and it goes on and on and on, spouting the official line.
How do you know who was on the TV if you weren't watching it? And this is what I don't get. And do you know what this funny thing is as well? David Icke moans about the TV. Have you ever seen what he does all his video casts in front of? A big fucking TV. That's not a monitor. It's a big TV. Fucking hypocrites, the fucking lot of them. Then they'll go on and talk about storylines for movies and TV shows as if they're real, as if like it really happened, or is God telling you signals or some shit. And you're asking yourself, where did you watch that TV show? Where did you watch that film? Do you know that watching a film or Netflix on your computer is the same as watching it on TV? It's the kind of same shit, kind of same idea. Don't watch your TV like the sheeple. Don't watch your TV like a sheeple. Tune into the internet and listen to David Icke 24 hours like the non-NPCs. Listen to Icke. Listen to Jones. Listen to UK Column. Support UKIP. Support UKIP. Support UKIP. Brexit mad. Brexit mad. Bill Gates. Kill Bill. Kill Bill. Kill Bill. That's the recent one. All the NPCs are fucking saying they can't even understand it. Vaccinations, kill Bill. Vaccinations, kill Bill. Vaccinations, kill Bill. They're worrying about an apocalypse that hasn't happened yet. They're worrying themselves into the ground. Great fear.
From their mansions while the rest of the population go under. Oh, how wonderful the health workers are. You know, if you want a mindless person, then you start with the celebrity set first, because that'll keep you busy for a while. Anyway, this world celebration of one world together at home was organized by the World Health Organization, which is owned by Bill Gates. He's the second biggest funder, second only to the United States government, and an organization called Global Citizen. Global Citizen is owned by Bill Gates.
Right, now, the reason they demonise Bill Gates is because of all these institutions and all that he's doing, right? Now, you can argue the rights and wrongs, but you only know the wrongs, none of the rights. Why? It's because it's the far right demonising initiatives by the far left. Right, I'm under no delusions what's going on here, right? It's the far right's information wing countering the left-wing commies, philanthropists that are doing the wee fucking global citizen shit and all that. So, my argument isn't to tell you what side of the political spectrum to be on, or be a globalist, or a fucking... What's the opposite of a globalist? A globalist, a nationalist, or whatever. Be whatever you want to be, but make your own mind up, and don't sit there with blinkers on and believe that Icke is telling you new information. It's severely it's Jim Dawson mind melt propaganda.
And look at the language: global citizen. Getting rid of borders so a world government controls everything and countries come to an end. This has been the agenda all along. This is why cult frontmen like George Soros have put more than $30 billion into an organization called the Open Society Foundations. Open society meaning open borders. It all fits in the end. And the mainstream media has not covered this, but just
What have they not
any
covered?
of this. Of course it isn't, because it's owned by the same cult ultimately. But
What have they not covered? I missed that.
we have seen this week is an article in
It seems like a fucking Asian doctor. And you know when he's trying to translate the words, and he's not.
in the Mail, the British Daily Mail, stroke Mail on Sunday website, Mail Online, in which they have revealed the following in relation to Britain, and this will be going.
Now, remember the Daily Mail as the British fascist newspaper. But hold on, we've got time. We're doing this live. Let me show you what I mean. Right, now this is the shit David Icke won't tell you to do. Right, so the Mail Online. Let's go to the Wikipedia page. Right now, I don't know if you understand this, but these newspaper elements are typically owned by bigger, larger, multi-fucking global corporations. News Corp or News Corps, whatever it's called, Rupert Murdoch's mob are a good example. Let me see, founders, owners. Right now, again, it's not really the Daily Mail and general trusts. The trust element is a way of rich people skipping money. So a big rich person came along and went, boom, there's a big massive trust that evades hunters' attacks, and the trust is there for the running in the newspaper, right? But let's see who these people were. They were like, well, go and look for it yourself. What am I looking for? The group traces its origins to the launch in 1896 of the mid-market national newspaper, the Daily Mail, by Harold Hamsworth's first Viscount Rothmere and his elder brother Althmere Hamsworth, first Viscount of Northcliffe. It was incorporated in 1922, and its shares were first listed in the stock exchange in 1932. Hamsworth, who had been elevated to the peerage of Lord Rothmere, was editorial sympathetic to Oswell Mosley. Right? So, like, let's say for argument's sake that the fascist elements that ran this newspaper haven't went away. They've just went underground and used Edward Bernays style PR to present themselves as a genuine, legit news organisation. And see, knowing that, does it make sense why the far right gets so much publicity and ammunition and stuff to talk about from the Daily Mail? To me, I can see it. But hey ho, I'm sharing my conspiracy. So, and again, if you look at all these fascists, it's not little Billy for down the street, it's Lord this, Lord that, cunt for Fleet Street. You know, so go and do your own due diligence. There's more shite for David Icke, rhyming and repeating shite from the Daily Mail as if like it's not a fascist outlet.
Going on around the world, because it's a globally orchestrated script. Private hospitals that have been...
Remember, this is the Daily Mail, the mainstream media that lies to you, but David Icke is now reading verbatim from it because it's now telling the truth.
Taken over by the National Health Service in fight against coronavirus at a cost of hundreds of millions of pounds are, quote, sinfully empty, leaving hundreds of the country's top doctors bored and twiddling their thumbs. What the Mail does not say is that is what is happening in the non-private NHS hospitals as well. So this is the story. Private hospitals taken over by the NHS at the cost of hundreds of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money to fight the coronavirus pandemic. They never put pandemic in quotes, of course, are sinfully empty, medics have told the Mail on Sunday.
So there's the Mail on Sunday, parroting shit that David Icke is then parroting, but he's not giving you the context of the Mail on Sunday could be seen as historically having sympathies towards the British fascists. Like Mosley and all that jazz, so... And now, like, see the Lord, forget his name now, the Lord that Tommy Robinson was sucking the bobia, he's sympathetic to the fascist movement in the UK.
Senior clinicians at private hospitals claim hundreds of the country's best doctors have been left twiddling their thumbs during the outbreak, putting people's health at risk from other illnesses and postponed operations. Last month,
I'll let you
8,000
shout about
beds
Icke for a wee
private
bit because I'm going to make a
hospitals
cup of
across the
tea.
country were taken under public control. NHS England said 20,000 fully qualified staff in the hospitals, including 700 doctors, were needed to battle COVID-19. No, they were needed to sell the public perception that they need to battle COVID-19 and how dangerous it is, so they will sit like a bunch of prats in their home because some other minute bunch of prats in government say they must. But the article goes on. But one London-based consultant orthopaedic surgeon said, what we are seeing at the moment is...
Is he still reading from the Daily Mail? You know, the fake lying mainstream media, but now it's telling the truth. I mean, see that just little bit of that logic train. I mean, that's only like 3 steps of logic. Apply 3 steps of logical thinking to these arseholes and what they're pumping your head full of, and it just goes poof, away it goes. What was I going to look at there? A TV, and we'll go to the BBC. Wee Sturgeon might be out on her podium now. She does it earlier, but the other guy might be out on his podium now. I thought we could maybe take in a wee bit of counterbalance, you know. Oh, here we go. Daily briefing started. You can't tell anymore because it just all looks like fucking Skype calls.
We have set out 5 clear tests as to what's incredibly important. And
I don't know about you, but a man with a voice like that,
we want to make sure that schools are given
me
proper notice.
with confidence.
We do not have a date as to when schools are going to be opening.
And that was
it's the Romulan.
Secretary Gavin Williamson speaking a little bit earlier. The US economy has shrunk by nearly 5%, ending the longest expansion in US history as coronavirus virtually shut down the country.
Hey, that ain't happening now. Shoo.
Painful and shocking mass of empty private hospitals and empty beds. Like I say, same happening in the NHS hospitals. Most of them are gathering dust, he said, with a whole load of doctors twiddling their thumbs, and it's costing the NHS millions. But you know, there is no price limit when the cult is running a scam. The surgeon said only emergency and time-critical operations were being allowed at his hospital, adding, I've a waiting list of 25 people who need major operations right now. One with severe arthritis is crying out in pain every night, unable to sleep. I was asked, is there anything you can do? I said nothing and advised her to take painkillers. A second medic said his hospital was fairly empty and underused, while another said he was pretty bored. I am unsure if the hospitals are being used in the most efficient way, he said.
Is he still talking about the Daily Mail? Is this still the Daily Mail he's rhyming and repeating? You know, the fake lying media, but this time it's telling the truth. Plus, he's not even telling you who the Daily Mail is owned by.
Oh, you're not kidding. A fourth doctor said private hospitals in North London were largely empty, despite repeated offers to help out with patients from, and this is the key, this is where the Mail then turns to its usual role of propaganda. Despite repeated offers to help out with patients from overrun NHS wards. They are not overrun. So this is what is going on, and it's going on all over the world, and it is leading to what is going to be, the longer this goes on, an extraordinary tidal wave of people dying at home with without treatment, and dying of things they don't need to die of because they've not been diagnosed.
Dying of boredom.
Gareth was telling me a story.
Gareth Southgate. You see, you know Sir Gareth Southgate? Is that like your old football ties and all that? No, don't. Oh, wrong one. Wrong one. I've lost it. Did I shut it down? Must have done. No, there it's there. I think that's Gareth. Nah, I think fuck, he's not got a touch of the Icke's about him. He might not look like a lizard when he's older.
To the core. Oh. That he knows, where a person was feeling ill at home, lockdown, and the
feeling ill, fake virus.
They called because couldn't see a doctor. They called the so-called helplines.
The so-called helplines.
To say,
I'm dying of this non-existent virus. Help me. The so-called helpline.
Were ill. Guess what they were diagnosed with? COVID-19.
Oh, wow.
No one gets ill anymore except by COVID-19, which, given it doesn't exist, is quite a trick.
My God almighty.
So
I never realised he was this extreme in his bullshit. This is his last one. This won't be up for long. Somebody will report this and YouTube will upload that. I wouldn't myself personally, honestly. I get small-minded. I would keep it up.
Feeling ill.
I can understand YouTube's position.
The same thing went on until her partner said, "Well, sod this. We're going to the hospital, which you're told not to do, because the more people go to hospital, the more people see that the places are basically
yeah, that's the reason they don't want people who don't need to go to the hospital to go to the hospital. This guy's a loon ball, man. I mean, honestly, like that's like a parallel universe to what's really going on. And 98% of fucking people with 3 brain cells would agree. I don't know, maybe the tide is changing because there's more people falling for pish like this. 5G, OG. 5G.
So when she got to hospital, they diagnosed her. She had stomach cancer, from which she died shortly afterwards. And only a tiny number of people are allowed to go to her funeral because of lockdown laws. You know, when I say that the world is run by psychopaths, I don't say it for effect.
Don't say it for effect. No, I'm the Oracle goalkeeper. Many years in the training field, I was holding my hands up with my big gloves on. They were used as antennae to pick up the frequencies from different dimensions, which tuned me to the moon. Ow!
but that's exactly what it's
David Icke causes autism.
run by. And as a result,
you know what? I can clearly see that for that avatar that's Cartman. Do you know? I'm not and I think Cartman has got a better shout on giving out medical advice than anybody else. So when Cartman said David Icke gives you autism, I believe him. It's like that respiratory doctor.
of this, there was a story this week. I'll remember it, but I'm going to see if I can find it as well. Where
God almighty, you can actually hear his mouse clicks and all that. Mate, sort your mic out, old man.
Stop. Who are suffering from cancer. And that actually goes on from the...
God, it's like the Bleemer.
Just told.
You can hear these keys. His microphone's in the keyboard.
Yeah, I found the story. Is that thousands of people are not being diagnosed with cancer because they're not seeing a doctor. And if they call in and say how they feel, it's COVID-19. So this is the...
Now, I would go and ask doctors and nurses and people. There's 1.5 million of them in this country. They ain't hard to find. Ask people in the NHS about this stuff. Not a goalkeeper sitting in a wee island talking conspiracy pish who can't work a microphone while eating boiled sweets. And he's seen it. He's the age was fucking... He's half senile already.
This is the story. Thousands missing out on cancer diagnosis. Delays in diagnosing and treating people with cancer could lead to more years of lost life than with COVID-19, according to a leading cancer expert. A drop-off in screening and referrals means roughly 2,700 fewer people are being diagnosed every week.
Every week! Calm down, David. Are these figures from the Daily Mail, or are these like the figures that you'll believe for 2 seconds because they fit your narrative, but all the other figures are fake? Those sort of figures. Does the selective plucking of certain parts of information and them deciding when and when not to believe the mainstream media, does that not ring alarm bells with anybody?
Cancer screening has paused in Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, with few invitations sent out in England. This will be going on all over the world. People are still advised to contact their doctor with worrying symptoms. And what will he say? You've got COVID-19.
Well, I've got first-hand evidence of this. Somebody I know, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with cancer during the pandemic. And do you know what? They were diagnosed with cancer, not COVID. They were offered chemotherapy, not COVID therapy. David Icke is that doesn't even make sense what he's saying, the fucking nitwit. Okay, get up. You're diagnosed with cancer. Let's treat you for corona. See that cancer? See that? You see that? See that big thing that's grown off your fucking head? That's corona. David Icke's a fruitball. How many examples have I shown? Now again, this is just whether if each to their own. If you're in the cult of David Icke, you'll take mega offence with me pointing out this guy's lunacy. And maybe I'm just a loony. Maybe I think a goalkeeper trying to give you medical advice, maybe that's sane. Maybe everybody in the world should go around. Maybe I'm nuts for thinking it's crazy to get medical advice from goalkeepers and Wookiees. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe when I'm listening to people who can't even get whether a guy's a doctor or a nurse right. Oh, I've probably got... Here we go. Now, this is the doctor that everybody's going around and quoting. The doctor that, by his own admission, isn't a doctor.
Good evening, YouTube. This is our future, and the power's with the people.
This is our future and the power's with the people. A deep power to the people. I mean, I don't know about yous. I love every doctor that starts off their thing with some hillbilly Where's my AR-15? Donald Trump for life, y'all. Right? And then goes on and tricks everybody into thinking he's a doctor by what? Claiming he's what?
Just want to let you know I am a respiratory therapist. Been doing this for 20.
He's been a respiratory therapist for 21 years. He's been working these here machines for 21 years. You might as well ask a car mechanic about the ins and outs of where viruses are real or not. Then David Icke quotes this guy as being a doctor, who then people will go out and tell their mums and dads who aren't tuned to the moon, their brothers and sisters who aren't tuned to the moon, that a doctor in America says it was fake, when it isn't a doctor in America, it's a fucking car mechanic. Well, it might as well be. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to Ike's shite. Fake news.
But Richard Sullivan, Professor of Cancer and Global Health at King's College London,
don't listen to him. Don't listen to him.
More fear of COVID-19 than having cancer at the moment. With
that's disgraceful.
General practitioner doctors more difficult to contact than normal, this was resulting in a dramatic drop-off in referrals to specialists. Another reason the hospitals are so quiet. Most modelers in the, what are they talking about? What, model trains? No, these are the computer modelers. The whole this has been based on. But anyway,
again, this guy's a Fruit Loop. He's sitting in there trying to put in the hospitals are empty conspiracy out there. They're hiding it from you that the hospitals are empty. When the BBC, ITV, all the local regional ones are telling you, quick, quick, kill yourself and come to the hospital. They're saying, come to the hospital if you're feeling no well, because they understand a lot of people are staying away. Not only that, people aren't in danger. Car accidents must be down. The whole variety of things that have reduced in lockdown, all the injuries and accidents as a result of that must be at a minimum. So, thank God the hospitals are coping rather than being overrun. It's almost as if these people are angry that there's the government managed to have increased the capacity to an extent where they managed. Do you know what I mean? Because let's not forget, if the government fucked up, there would be a political price to pay, and these vultures, right-wing vultures, would feast on the carcass of that.
Estimate of deaths,
and they're still trying to do it, even though
greater, he said, than we're going to see with COVID-19. We're not going to see any deaths from COVID-19. It doesn't exist. With cancer patients generally much younger, Professor Sullivan predicted...
David Icke, I've got a question for you. Do you believe in electro telescopes? What do you think all these pictures doing the rounds of the virus are? Anyway, let's hear some more lunacy.
On coronavirus.
Oh God, I hate this guy.
And I can report that through the government's ongoing monitoring and testing programme, as of today, there have now been 818.
I hate this guy because
tests for the virus.
He sounds like
the UK, including
hi there. I really don't feel well today. I can't come into work. Voice.
165,221 people have tested positive.
You know, it's like,
and that's an increase.
I'm talking about death.
Cases.
It's like when you're funny when you see me hear the news and you're like, today.
Now, as the health secretary
the actor Billy Bob, Billy Bag died.
System for deaths.
Our sympathies
so deaths in all settings are
go
included
out to his
wherever
family.
the individual has
and Rangers won the fucking cup! Woohoo! Yay! You know the way they want to go and move for like their wee sad voice, and then they move on to a different story. But in other news, think we get married.
Have recorded an additional 3,811 deaths.
It's insincere funny for me. I don't know.
And I think it's just important to say that those additional deaths were spread over
at those points.
Insincerity
to me is the biggest kind of insult you can have. You know,
they don't represent a sudden surge in the number of deaths. Sadly, today's figures show an additional 765 deaths compared to yesterday. I'll let Professor Doyle talk us through the data in detail.
Don't listen to this, Professor. David Icke knows best.
Of the fact that behind every statistic,
he's not a real professor because David Icke's a real professor.
Tragically lost before their time. We also pay tribute, of course, to those caring for the sick. And yesterday at 11 o'clock in the morning, the whole country observed a minute's silence, a moment to reflect on the sacrifice of all of our frontline workers who have died whilst dedicating themselves to caring for and serving others. Now, on the 16th of April, I set out 5 principles that would guide our approach to the transition away from the current set of social distancing measures in place and into a second phase. We continue to see evidence in the data of a flattening of the peak of the virus, and that is only happening because we delivered on the 2 central pillars of our strategic approach to defeating coronavirus. The first one was that we reinforced our NHS capacity through the Nightingale hospitals, the extra critical care capacity, more ventilator beds, and extra doctors and nurses on the front line. And the second is that we introduced the social distancing measures at the right time, guided by the scientific and medical evidence. And the public's overwhelming support for those rules has helped save lives and protect the NHS from becoming overwhelmed. Now, we're still coming through the peak, and this is, as I've said before, a delicate and dangerous moment in this crisis. So I know that a lot of people have made a lot of sacrifices, which is why it's so important that we don't let up now and risk undoing all of that hard work. So as we look to the future, our 5 tests remain absolutely key. First, we must continue to boost NHS capacity, preventing it from being overwhelmed. Second, we need to see a sustained and consistent fall in the number of deaths. Thirdly, we need to see further reductions in the rate of infection to manageable levels across all the relevant areas and settings. And fourth, we must be confident that the NHS will be able to cope with future demands. And that includes as a result of any changes to existing measures or new measures that we may need to take. Fifth, and I think this is probably the most critical of the 5 principles, we need to be confident that any adjustments to the current measures will not risk a second peak of infections that could overwhelm the NHS. A second spike would be harmful to public health, and it would result in many more deaths from COVID-19. That itself would lead to a second lockdown, inflicting further prolonged economic pain on the country. And as the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, said last week, that wouldn't just be economically dangerous, it would inflict a serious blow to public confidence. So this issue of a second spike and the need to avoid it, it's not a theoretical risk, and it's not something that's just confined to the United Kingdom. Having relaxed restrictions in Germany over the last week, they've seen a rise in the transmission rate of coronavirus. Now, Chancellor Merkel has said publicly, and she's made it clear that they might need a second lockdown in Germany if the infection rate continues to rise. So this is a very real risk, and it's vital we proceed carefully, guided by the scientific advice, so that our next step through this crisis is a sure-footed one. We mustn't gamble away the sacrifices and the progress that we've made. We must continue to follow the scientific evidence, and we must continue to take the right decisions at the right moment in time. Now, we are working on all of the potential options for a second phase. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Whether you're an NHS worker on the front line, working tirelessly, shift after shift, or a parent at home with young children. But we do need to be patient, and we need to be careful as we come through what is a moment of maximum risk. So we'll wait for SAGE's next review of the data in early May. We're ramping up the testing with capacity now at over 73,000 per day and 52,429 tests carried out per day. And eligibility for those tests has now been expanded again further to include anyone who needs to go to work but can't work remotely and who has symptoms. It also includes anyone over 65 with symptoms and all care home residents as well as care home staff. And at the same time, as we ramp up the testing capacity, we'll keep working on our tracking and tracing capability, which is going to be a key component in the next phase of this crisis. We'll continue to source ventilators and personal protective equipment, both at home and abroad. Paul Dayton is leading the national effort to increase domestic production and supply. We continue to source PPE from abroad. We're setting ourselves out as the international buyer of choice in the international marketplace. And I can tell you that in the last 10 days, we've secured over 5 million masks from China. We've had 3 flights with gowns from Turkey. because we know that every single one of those items of PPE is needed by those working so hard on the front line, both in NHS and also in our care homes. And our international effort isn't confined to procurement. I can tell you we've also made enormous progress in returning British nationals who otherwise would have been at risk of being stranded abroad.
Refugees.
It's worth just noting that since the outbreak in Wuhan, we've helped an estimated 1.3 million British nationals return on commercial flights. And we've done that by working with the airlines and with those governments to make sure that the flights can run and that the airspace is left open. And we brought back over 200,000 British nationals from Spain, 50,000 from Australia, and over 11,000 from Pakistan, to name but just 3 countries. As well as those commercial flights, we've also chartered flights where commercial options were not possible. And we've now reached a stage where we've brought back over 20,000 British nationals on 21 flights. And that includes 9,000 British nationals who have been brought back from India, 2,000 from South Africa, and 1,200 from Peru. So it's also just, in terms of repatriations, worth bearing in mind that on the 17th of March, when we changed our travel advice for those travelling on cruise ships, there were something like 19,000 British passengers on 60 cruise ships sailing around the world. And as the border restrictions were put in place by country after country, we faced a daunting task in getting our people home. But we stuck at it, and six weeks later, we've now got all 19,000 British passengers back home safe and sound. So that was an enormous effort, and we recognise that the job isn't yet done. We'll continue with this unprecedented effort, with further charter flights coming back from New Zealand, Pakistan and Bangladesh, amongst others, over the next week or so. So I must pay tribute at this point to all of the outstanding work our consular teams working night and day at the FCO in London, but also at our embassies and our high commissioners around the world have been putting in. Finally, the Health Secretary announced last week that UK trials have started as we draw on the incredible scientific talent that we've got in this country to pursue a vaccine. And that effort too has an international dimension to it. So today we announced that the UK will provide Gavi, which is the International Vaccine Alliance, with the equivalent of £330 million each year over the next 5 years, as we seek to come up with a vaccine both to protect the British people, but also to help immunise millions of the poorest and most vulnerable people right around the world. Combining the depth of our innovative know-how with the big-hearted determination that has characterised our national effort to defeat the coronavirus. And having said that, I'm now going to ask Yvonne to talk us through the latest data slides. Yvonne, over to you.
Thank you, Secretary of State. We have a selection of measures and slides here today to show. And the first one is just to remind us of the 5 tests for adjusting
where's the YouTube
lockdown,
video of a guy who people say is a doctor and isn't? I want to see that. I want to see your address.
Capacity, it's about a fall
absolute
in
bull crap. Because if you don't, you're obviously hiding from it. Because I mean, if they don't talk about the banned video from David Icke, then they're just not telling you the truth.
That we're confident that the adjustments to the current measures will not.
I never heard the shit that Germany stuff went back up.
But moving to the actual slides, and the next slide, please, shows what is going on out in society at the moment. This is a transport slide which shows the use of various forms of transport. As we've seen up to now, very dramatic falls in most modes, but there has been an uptick in motor vehicles. And the message here really is that we are still passing through this peak. And this use of motor vehicles is the highest working day use since the 23rd of March. And we really have to be vigilant that most people are making huge efforts to stay at home and save lives. And this is slightly worrying. So please do stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives, and go out for the necessities.
It's okay, Hen, it's right in front of you in big fucking writing. We get it.
The next slide, please, is about new cases in the NHS and in the country at the moment in the UK. And we can see here the increasing amount of testing that's going on through the orange bars. But basically, the cases have remained broadly stable over the last weeks, and that is good news. But I want to move on really to show you a little more about that. The next slide, please, does show this. So now we have a slide about people in hospital. And this is broadly good news because the numbers in hospital have decreased from over 18,000 to over 15,000. That's a 16% decrease. And it's manifest in all regions. You can see how London had an early peak, but now London is declining in its use of hospital facilities. But of course, other regions may overtake that. So we do have to be careful. As I say, we are passing through this peak. We're not through this yet. The next slide, thank you, is about critical care bed use.
Remember, don't believe these figures, believe David Icke's Daily Mail figures.
In the UK. And this means all beds, both high dependency and intensive care wards use. And this is good news because we can see here that 40% of the beds are being used. That means there is critical care capacity. And that is a credit to the NHS for how it has got us through
here's the government denying the hospitals are empty.
And there is capacity and room for patients who need it.
Here's the government.
The next slide, please, is about the cumulative daily COVID
this is the government saying that there's not enough ventilators.
An interesting slide where we'll begin to get in a little bit more into what is going on with deaths. So the deaths in hospital is the blue line. And that is what has been measured very reliably up to now. But now Public Health England, with support from the NHS, has been in a position to congregate deaths in all settings based on confirmed tests that we see coming through our labs. So what we can say here is, first of all, that the deaths on the orange line are confirmed deaths from coronavirus.
Italy,
that tells
in
us
Spain,
what exactly is going on in all settings. And when I say
running
all
rampant
settings, I mean
through
hospitals,
care homes.
health
Sometimes the staff in the care home, when they back up, just leaving,
in the community broadly and in
some
care
of the
homes.
stories were
So
atrocious.
now we see that there is a divergence. It's not it's about a 20% divergence, but it's good news in the main in terms of what it is showing, because what it's showing is we are getting a comprehensive picture, and this is most important for control. So could I move on to the next slide, please? Which is about the daily deaths, which is excluding deaths outside of hospital. So these are hospital deaths, which is what we were looking at in the previous slide, in the blue slide. And it shows this declining trend of deaths in hospital, which the trend started to increase at the end of March, and we can see it declining. But to re-stress, we're still coming through the peak because, of course, this doesn't represent all deaths. But it is good news about deaths in hospital, and that is also a credit to the good treatment in hospital. The next slide looks at COVID deaths in all settings. And you can see there, it's a cumulative line there, the orange line. And it's good to do it that way because otherwise you get swings and ups and downs when weekends occur and people, are not sure what has happened with deaths. But with the line, you can see the trend. And the trend is quite flat, actually. It may begin to decline, but we're not convinced of that yet. But it's good to show that. And the reason it starts at the 30th of March is because this is about all settings. That was the time when we were able to start measuring that from then on. So this is a 7-day rolling average. And it's daily. And it's very important we know what's happening daily. Now on to global. So global death comparisons. I have 2 slides here. The first one is actually just crude numbers.
Look at Germany compared to the UK.
And you can see here a pattern that
somebody was
looks
saying that
like
they
the
took
United
China
States
off as
has
well.
A very high number of deaths, and other countries perhaps are aligning with each other. But the point on this slide at the side says a number of things. First of all, these measures may not be comprehensive measures of death in the way that we're very keen to do here and are doing now comprehensively. So, for instance, in Spain, we're not absolutely clear whether the deaths in Spain include all care home deaths. And this is understandable because it's very complex and difficult to get these measures, particularly on a daily basis, which is why the news today about being able to do this on a daily basis is very good news. Although, of course, the news about numbers of deaths is not good news, and again stresses how dangerous this virus is, how sad it is for those individuals, and how we have to be ever vigilant about how we look after each other and how we adhere to the requests to stay at home, protect the NHS, and particularly to save lives. Now, the last slide is also interesting because this now shows the cumulative death number per million population.
Apart from China,
this shows
we've got Japan on it, but no China.
Where we can see two measures for the UK, the hospital deaths and the comprehensive deaths. They're not hugely different on this scale, but you can see where we are now tracking much more along our European neighbours, and also we're seeing Italy and Spain there, and France, but the US, of course, has dropped because we're now measuring rates per million. Other countries have increased. The important thing here is that it is where our measures are comprehensive, they're daily, and they take in all care settings. So I thought you would wish to see the two contrasts. Thank you, Secretary of State.
Yvonne, thank you very much indeed. I think we'll now turn to questions from the media, and I think first up we've got Hugh Pym from the BBC. Hugh, are you there?
Hugh Pym seems like a something you drink in the summertime.
Question about testing.
Hugh
What
Pym's
support will you give care homes in administering and organising tests and helping them keep residents and staff safe?
Well, I'm happy to let either Yvonne or Jonathan come in, but just to be clear, we've expanded the eligibility. Eligibility now includes anyone in a care home, whether resident or staff. We have obviously had a distribution issue. There's no sugarcoating the challenge we've had with that. We've helped deliver them through the Local Resilience Forum. We are getting the Clipper service up and running, and the military have also done an exceptional job. So whether it's the supply, and which we're ramping up in the way I've described and that the Health Secretary has explained, or the delivery, we're doing everything that we possibly can.
I don't think
Yvonne, I don't know whether you or Jonathan want to add anything.
Well, thanks. Yes, indeed, Hugh. So there are a number of ways that testing is and will continue to happen at scale in care homes. Since this epidemic in care homes, which still continues, there has been a huge local effort, both through local government, our directors of public health, our health protection teams, but increasingly with support from national endeavours to get the tests to the home, to make sure staff get the testing they need. This will continue for some considerable time until we are convinced that we have got under this epidemic in the care homes, which is, of course, of most concern.
Anything else you'd like to ask on that?
Couldn't testing really have started sooner than now?
Well, Hugh, testing has always occurred during outbreaks, and that has never been given up at a local level. Our health protection teams, supported by others, the NHS locally, have been going into care homes throughout the country. But the scale and the speed of this epidemic is really in the last couple of weeks. And there is a huge...
I've got my own conspiracy theory about this, right? I think the reason, the deliberate reason testing wasn't rolled out in such as big a large scale as could have been as quickly as possible is...
So that we can put in place
I think they were scared that...
People are absolutely passionate about getting this right. But it
I'm
is
in a
the
deep
most
when it comes to all this shit
complex
about
sector to
Daniel,
get
but
to.
maybe they were scared that too many people would come back positive, leaving the frontline staff
critical to use local intelligence
far
as to where the
too
risks are
unequipped to deal with potential numbers of the outbreak.
An enormous testing capacity to deliver what I think you're suggesting we could have or should have. One of the big challenges we've had is asymptomatic people coming to and in and out of care homes, whether it's other care home workers who work in more than one place, NHS staff coming in, or indeed members of family. And as Yvonne said, it's obviously a decentralised system, but the social distancing and the control over transmission in and out of care homes is probably the single biggest factor. And obviously we're doing everything we can to give the guidance and give the support to care homes to achieve that. Dan Hewitt, ITV.
Thank you, Secretary of State. We've discovered that hospices are being denied access to government-managed supplies of PPE, of personal protective equipment. Unlike hospitals and care homes, they are not being included in the main NHS supply chain managed by the government through Supply Chain Coordination Limited. Instead, hospices are still relying on donations of PPE, and they're having to buy their own largely on the open market at hugely inflated prices. It means that hospices have told us that they could run out of PPE within a matter of days. Why is it that hospices are being treated differently to hospitals and care homes when it comes to accessing PPE?
Well, I'll defer to Jonathan and Yvonne, but basically, and I don't know, of course, the hospices that you've talked to, but we've been guided throughout by the NHS about where A, the shortfalls have been, and B, what's the priority. And we've always said that the priority has been on the front line of the NHS and care homes, but obviously we want to make sure we've got enough PPE. That's why we're doing all of these flights from abroad. That's why Paul Dayton's ramping up the domestic capacity to get to anyone that may need it, and obviously hospice is very important there as well.
Yes, Secretary of State. So it's very important we ascertain where these problems are, and that's why local intelligence is very important. The guidance covers all places where people are at risk. So that's very important to say. There is no differentiation here in where people are at risk and what they might need. What may often be lacking is the knowledge of where there are pockets of problems, and we've had this throughout. So it is welcome to know this, and there are ways in which hospices can actually make known what they need through helplines. But if that isn't happening, then it's very important that we do hear this.
Dan, do you want to supplementary? Anything you want to come back on?
Yeah, thank you, Secretary of State. On that, Hospice UK, the main charity, I understand, have been coordinating and speaking to the relevant bodies within government to explain and have provided evidence that shows they need this PPE. So you're absolutely right to say it must go where it needs to, but they have made a very strong case to say they need it. They're treating 3 times as many terminally ill patients now than they were this time last year. They're treating people with coronavirus, so they definitely do need this PPE. I think the assurance they want is when they'll be included in the NHS supply chain, because, as I say, they are caring for very sick and vulnerable people as well.
Oh, absolutely, and my heart goes out to all.
Boring. There's nothing new in it. Oh, they just bitch. The worst thing they can say about this whole thing is PPE, 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 PPE. Right, which obviously the government hasn't got enough rolled out to the critical people on time. Maybe that's part of the conspiracy as well. They don't need all this PPE. They need is fake because there is no virus, which means there isn't like these patients that you need PPE to feel safe to operate on. You know, that's obviously the way like logic works. Oh, who's this bit of poontang?
Extra deaths today show.
Oh, no. Sounds like Janet Street Porter, love. Woo! Don't care how good your legs are, hen out. It sounds like Zippy for fucking. Janet Street Porter sounds like Zippy for Rainbow. But I didn't do everything wrong. What's his name? Jeffrey. I didn't do everything wrong, Jeffrey. See, I can do Zippy impersonations as well. Jeffrey. Anyway, let's listen to a wee bit of Icke and then out. From the BBC to the anti-BBC, like who's telling the truth?
Years of lost life will be quite dramatic on top of a huge amount of avoidable mortality. Mags Bailey, 58-year-old from Reading, had a mole removed last year and found it was a melanoma, a skin cancer, in February.
Fake.
She had another appointment in April to find out if her cancer had spread. But she was really upset to find out it had been cancelled and no one contacted her to say so. I sort of swing between feeling completely positive to thinking, oh my God, I've got cancer cells running through my body and who knows what they're doing.
You dying of cancer? Oh, no.
Mag says she completely understands the NHS is under immense pressure with coronavirus. You see how the perceptual scam has infiltrated the minds even of people like this.
God almighty, man, this guy is dangerous sprouting this shit. I wouldn't let him anywhere near my platform to like spout that shit unchecked in a wee echo chamber of fucking people are David Icke, he's fighting the new world order. No offence, man, but honestly, like if I ran YouTube or any social media network or anything like that in Houstonia, he'd be out. I wouldn't beat around the bush. I wouldn't say breaking the terms and conditions. He's a fucking danger to cunt's health. Get him to lunatic. Go and use all your cash to build your own website, set up your own streaming service and all that, and stop coming over here to try and pollute people's minds with your fucking dressed up propaganda pish. And let's not forget, David Icke did work for the BBC as well, which is ironic. Not many people know that. It was the BBC that launched him. Anyway, have a wee look over here. And then get out of here. I need to jump over to the shop. And where's my mask? Thanks to Sturgeon, I'm going into the shop like a fucking cowboy. Ooh yeah, baby. I won't wear my glasses, but I will have my mask on, so. But still pretty cool to be able to, in fact, actually you look more like a robber with no glasses. The glasses, I don't know, makes you look like a robot. Right. Shopping time, get my water pistols out. Jack some people for bug roll and sanitizer. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed that. If not, I mean, like, I don't know. Make sure you thumbs it up if you did enjoy that. My challenge of show me what David Icke has ever said recently that was wrong, because obviously on his shape-shifting lizard, but apparently there's a time limit on talking absolute shite. You know, apparently if you come out and claim like fucking you're the Jesus incarnate, apparently there's a time limit before people just start thinking you're a serious journalist again. I don't know what the time limit is, but apparently there's one there. But anyway, that was a video he put up today. God knows when he said it, the last few days, talking about recent events, and he's still as full of shit as ever. Talking about non-existent doctors. There's the main one. And to find out he's a non-existent doctor, you only need to go and listen to the guy's own video. That's how thorough David Icke is. That's how careful he is not to parrot pish that's fake. And then he talks about fake news. He's the biggest amount of fake news. BBC and all that wouldn't do that. They would call this guy a respiratory therapist and a conspiracy loonball. Anyway, I digress. Oh man. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully people did watch it. Remember, I do digital baskets, all available and accessible, free of charge. I hope to do such a good job you will find value in what I do. Hoo hoo hoo. Hey yeah. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. And use the Patreon or the PayPal button down below, and a mega thanks to everybody that does. Hand gel guns. Oh, you could fill up your water pistols. Fill up your water pistols with hand gel. No, because you don't want to waste hand gel. You want to fill your water pistols up with water to get the hand gel, man. The hand gel is the gravy, baby. The hand gel is the gold. The hand gel's the payoff. That's your loot. Your loot for the boot. So, aye, if you did enjoy that, make sure you thumbs it up. Obviously, people that are right into the, and I'm not even doing this to upset people that really love David Icke. The things that he's saying and stuff can't go unchecked, and I don't believe I don't believe pointing out his bullshit there. How can you like debunk, challenge the fact that David Icke is talking about a guy who isn't a doctor? As in, is he a doctor and all the other bullshit I pointed out, and then he's harping on about the empty hospitals and all that shit. It's usual pish. Takes 50 minutes to talk about two things. Idiots that are like that, I have no idea. Anyway, Say hi to everybody in the chat. I love you all, man. Even the haters. No, see the haters. Fuck you. I hate you too. Sorry, Red Pill Phil, man, but it cracks me up when you're like through gritty teeth raging, want to stab people. I love you, even the haters. You're like, nah, mate, that's just insincere. Come on, you fuck. Really, so be better. You're trying to be truth and honest. You're being insincere as fuck. There's the Jesus McVicar, Java Guru. In the evening, Maria, how you doing? Stay tuned, I might do a wee live stream tonight if I can be asked. The Blazing Stars in the evening. It was an inside job. Mrs. Space. Vladimir, who cares in the evening, guys and girls. Groover Dodger, thanks for joining. Vladimir, how you doing, my man? Listen, buddy, the details are below. We'll hook up and have a chat, man. I find it easier to explain myself verbally than I do. Not my fingers can do the talking, but my typing can't do the talking, if you get me. Who cares? The artist formerly known as Tony, how you doing, buddy? Lazy Jesus. In the evening, guys and the girls. Gas Mask was in as well. How you doing, buddy? Richie touched base. Who cares? Carletta in the evening. Carletta. Andy was in earlier as well. Thanks to everybody that did join. Thumbs up. Share it, friends, family, foes. Patreon. No, sorry. PayPal button down below for the Digital Busker show. Alright, BoobTube, spell and sub up for all the clips I'll be uploading in my boredom, and the live wee streams that I'll be doing periodically like this. And at all times, if anybody wants to get involved and put their points across, there's WhatsApp, Skype, and Zoom details. Plenty of ways to get in touch if you want to. Alrighty, BoobTubes, have a good one. Catchies!
Clips, clips.